Hello and welcome to Business Time Live with Meg Boland Murphy. And today I would like to introduce you to the lovely Sarah Reynolds from Organised Chaos. And it's a great name for a great business. And I have to say I could do with her the odd day in both my personal and my professional life. And we're going to chew the fat about all things decluttering and organising your space, and hear a little bit about her backstory as well, and how the story and how the business got started, which is always something I love to hear about. This lady has done huge work, and she'll tell us a little bit about that, from the States to Ireland and a lot of other bases in between. So first of all, Sarah, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Max. Thank you so much for having me.
Not at all. Always delighted to talk to you. I suppose the name, first of all, Organised Chaos, I love that name because it's a term we all use, I suppose, as well when we're talking about working in organised chaos, which
Yeah.
for a lot of us can be truthful, more true than we know. Tell us a little bit about the story of how your business started and where the idea came from, Sarah.
Yeah, sure. Well, the name Organized Chaos, I was brainstorming names, as you do for your business years and years and years ago. And I suppose over the years it has come to mean so much in that and I suppose first and foremost is that people when they look at professional organizers and professional organizing businesses, they think about perfection. And they think that everything is going to be alphabetized and everything in height order or color coded and perfect. And I suppose to say from the off that perfection doesn't exist, right? And that we are all living in organized chaos, or in chaos. We all have chaos. Everybody has chaos. Everybody has clutter, whether it's physical, manifesting physically, mentally, whatever is going on. There are so many things outside of our control. And what organized chaos tries to do is put some organization on that chaos, control the controllables, and that. So that the name is apt for our lives, I feel. But how it started when I was 15, so which was a
Oh
long
my
time ago.
God.
Yeah, so I was looking at I was watching Oprah with my mom. We always watched Oprah. And Julie Morgenstern came on, and she was talking about her new book, which was all about organization, organizing from the inside out, was the name of her book, and it's obviously still out there. If you want to grab that, but buy my book first, of course.
Absolutely.
And yeah, she had organized the Oprah offices. And as Oprah would say, I had my light bulb moment, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I could do that," because I loved organizing. Like, I don't have this big transformation before or after story. I wish it might have been better for marketing, but yeah, no, I just love organizing. Decluttering, not so much. Like, I'm like everybody else, take it or leave it, but necessary evil. But I love the feeling that organization can give you, and I love how it can look. It looks so pretty and beautiful. So anyway, that started a seed, and I was like, oh, maybe I can do that one day. But I went off to college, got a proper job, and it was always nagging in the back of my mind. Maybe I might do this, might do this. So eventually I decided, like by 15 years later, I said, right, I'm going to take a year's leave of absence. Julie Morgenstern was doing a training course over in New York. I got on the training course, went over to New York, did that. Then I asked her for a job. She offered me a job, but it was office administration, but I was, too ambitious for that. I was already doing office administration back in Ireland. Now it was in television, but it was still office stuff. And I was like, no, I want to get out and be organizing. So I turned that down, which I probably shouldn't have in hindsight. But anyway, I did. Had to go back to my mammy. So came back home, took a 4,000 euro loan out, built a website, got a logo, and a couple of months later, I got my first client in 2010. I think it was February 2010, I got my first client. Yeah, and that's how it started.
You just reminded me of something actually, Sarah, when you said that you were 15 when you got this idea, right? Now I'm going to talk about something that it's funny because in these conversations that we could end up talking about anything I notice on the podcast. But when I was that age and younger, I used to have this fascination with having everything in its place. And I don't know where it came from, but I think it's been eroded over the years because, as you rightly said, there is no such thing as perfection. But you can strive for excellence, as the quote says. But you mentioned there as well about that whole piece of what's been organized can do for you and how it just makes you feel.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one of the key benefits of decluttering and also being organized.
Yeah.
Because I know probably in your work there's a bit of both a lot of the time. What other benefits, what real tangible stuff do you see with clients that you're working with? Like, you work with both commercial clients and corporates and also private individuals, isn't that right?
Yeah, that's it exactly. And yeah, I mean, I think decluttering and organizing, the, it's very hard to describe the feeling that you will get after. It's like exercise, and going to the gym. You don't feel like doing it, and then you go and do it, and you feel so amazing afterwards. You wonder why you don't do it more often. So if I could bottle the feeling that you get after you declutter and organize, I would be a millionaire. So it just makes us feel so much better. When we are surrounded in a lot of clutter, and the clutter can be either in our space, or we can clutter up our schedule as well, or like even with kids, we can overschedule our kids with every single after school activity. And, sometimes it's really important for them to be bored, so if there's just too much stuff going on in our lives, our brains don't know where to focus. Our brain is an energy economizer. It's always trying to find the easiest way to do things. And if there's just too much stuff, it doesn't know what it needs to do now and next, or at least it's struggling to figure it out. And so therefore, when you declutter your space, that's one part of it, because obviously you're reducing the amount of stuff that's in your environment. But it's the organization that's going to set these systems up, and it's going to hold how you do things for longer. So it's really, really important to do both of them. And I think people can get stuck in a decluttering loop all the time. I do this all the time, but I never seem to get anywhere. And it's usually one, because they haven't decluttered enough, or two, they didn't move on to the organization where you're setting up your systems and seeing it all the way through. So it's like going to the gym and doing a couple of machines and then leaving, or doing all of the machines, but you only did one set. So you have to see it all the way through. So yeah, that's like obviously one of the benefits. The biggest benefit is obviously how the well-being aspect of it and how you feel. But then, I've seen clients, just they take up new hobbies because their brain has space to think. They have time on their hands. They lose weight. The relationships improve because they're not, giving out about where to put things. With people relocating into and out of the country, obviously relocations and house moves is probably the most stressful thing you can do. That reduces your stress and your anxiety. Through good organization and management of the plans and that. So there's only benefits to doing a little bit of organization. Where it comes into the negative is when you start to move towards the OCD side of things. OCD is obviously a very stressful state of mind. And that, for me, organization is all about comfort and simplifying. How can we simplify what we're doing in our home and work lives? How can we increase the comfort that's in our lives, not bringing it to extremes in any shape or form?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that whole productivity piece, that if you have that little bit of time freed up, and I for one can't function in clutter. I suppose someone said to me years ago, and my husband said that actually, the space that you work or live in it can reflect how your head is actually working. And sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not, but it definitely, like, I know, and it sounds funny now, but when we moved into our home 2 years ago, I'd say we got a skip 3 or 4 times. But it was just to find a home for stuff as well that we could pass on and recycle or give into secondhand stores. But
Yeah.
just that space, it allows you to work better in your home and also in your work environment. We did a lean program here last year for our own business, and a bit of decluttering was involved in that, Sarah. Just learning to kind of make it easier for us to work
Yeah.
and smarter, because I think for instance, if you've got somebody who is relocating and they're relocating for work purposes here and they engage your services, which I know you've done some of that in the past, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking out loud myself. I've had to do that in the past myself as well, where I moved abroad for work. That if you've got somebody there to help you do that, then you're going to hit the ground running in an easier way in your new role as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're more, like, if you're working in a tidier space and it helps you to put the systems into place a little bit smarter. Tell me a little bit about this book that you have.
Oh yeah, the book. Yes. No, yeah, organized. Simple tips to declutter your house, schedule, and mind. So it's in some bookshops and it's on online as well. And yeah, that was released in 2018, still out there. So and yeah, basically it goes through the 3 elements that I feel you need to go through in order to get yourself organized. First of all, it's starting off with your mindset and what brought you to this point, what needs to change. Very often, usually the clutter in our environment comes to the fore because of some sort of transition we might be going through. We've just spoken about relocating, or it could be retirement, or it could be a new baby, or you might be studying, and that transition might either be currently ongoing or just finished. And so suddenly our environment, we're just very, very aware of it, of the clutter and what's holding us back. And so we look at all the well-being side of it and the mindset and why you are in the situation that you feel you're in and why it's so difficult to make decisions and why you struggle with it. And we examine all of that. And then we move to your time management, because without looking at your time, you're not going to be able to look at your space, or at least it'll be very difficult to do so. So we really need to look at how we manage our time, or how we create more time, because there is always more space in our schedule than we think that there is. And so we're just looking at how we are managing that and how to find more time, so that it will facilitate the decluttering and organization of the space, which is then the third part. And then we look at all the different rooms in your home and how to and the methods that I use to declutter and reduce everything in the home. And just on that, you mentioned about a skip there, 3 or 4 times when you moved in. Like, I mean, I obviously, this is what I do for a living, but it's not to say that I don't need to declutter and organize as well. And it was just over the Christmas, the way obviously with Christmas you've got lots of decorations and that, and then you put the decorations away and you've got a lovely clear space and your house feels all minimal. But myself and my boyfriend was just saying, because there's certain areas of the house that just continually gets messy, and I said, I think that we need to do another declutter. And he was like, I think so too. And I was like, oh my God, we were both thinking the exact same thing at the same time. Because and I was only speaking about to this with a client yesterday, because that feeling that there's too much stuff gets under our skin. And sometimes it can be hard to explain. And it is only through letting go and reducing what we own and then setting up these systems for you get that more productive environment. And we were talking about, you mentioned there about people who are relocating and that they can hit the ground running faster. But even more than that, though, Mags, is that some people they arrive into Ireland and they're straight into work. they are, and they have families that are moving over with them, and they're in a brand new country that they're completely lost. And an organizer will go in there, and the one thing they can fix is your house. And why wouldn't you take all of that burden off you, you know? So it just increases, it just reduces the stress and it gets things done so much faster with less hassle. And that's the benefit of organization. You're getting to your goal faster with less stress.
Yeah. I love the way you have it broken into three segments. You
Mm,
know, it makes complete sense because it's not just about clearing, what I think you do, Sarah, is a bit of mindful organization, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
because you're being mindful that you're dealing with a human being, and we're all different, and we're all different. And if we're not ready to engage in the process as well, then it's no point,
Yeah.
engaging in the process.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us a little bit. I'm really intrigued here because I love following your reels, and it's brilliant. I love to see the before and the after and that whole change that comes about. It's just one of those things that lights my fire. I love it. I know I must have a boring life, but I do love that. Um,
Well, you see, this is where I disagree, Mags. You see, everybody always says if you love organization, you must be boring. I actually think it just makes good sense.
Yay! Oh,
I would
those
say that, wouldn't I?
yeah, those other
I'm
programs used
totally
to.
cool.
Yeah, you are, Cora. So am I. We're cool chicks. But when you're doing the whole renovation thing, when you see programs like, I love seeing that, like, what they can manage to turn
So
around.
satisfying. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
But tell me about the link back to Oprah, because you mentioned her
Mhm.
when you were starting out, and
Yes.
there's a later link.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, with the book, of course. How did I
Yeah.
forget? I know. Yeah, that was amazing. About 2 months after it was launched, they Oprah.com picked it up and put it across their website and that. So it was unreal. Like the champagne was out. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was fantastic. And obviously I had started all of my organizing, or at least the idea came from watching Oprah. So yeah, it was super. It was fantastic. Still have to meet her
Those
though.
like we
One
we
day.
yeah, you never know. You
You
never
never
know.
know. You never know.
Um, and can I ask you something? And this is the nosy part of me, right?
Ask me.
Um, Tell us, I suppose, the most unusual organized chaos project you've worked on,
Oh, the most unusual one.
or something that really stands out.
Um, I mean, there's um there's different one like they all stand out in a different way, I suppose, but like the two that spring to mind is one from my very, very beginnings of my business journey and one from before Christmas. They're the two that are jumping out. And so the one before that started that from the beginnings of my business, which is I suppose when I was inexperienced and didn't know a lot, and that client was really, really struggling with their paperwork. And I suppose that was unusual in that I was learning that sometimes no matter what, people just can't let go. And so I was learning the huge psychology that is around organizing. People get in touch and they go, "Oh, I need to just clear out my wardrobe." But it is so much more than that. And people look at their whole decision making of their lives when they're going through a wardrobe. They don't even realize, but that can be such an eye opener, and it's what's amazing about the job. And so that was unusual for me because I was trying to get this lovely result for this client, and this client really, really wanted it, but the struggle was real. And it just got to a point where it was just, she wasn't ready. So that always just jumped out to me. But she just described her clutter as visual noise, which I loved that term. And so she gave me that term for it, which I thought was just so um so that client, even though I wasn't able to get the result that that I had thought that I had wanted to get for her, starting off a business, I learned so much with that, and it was unusual in that it was unusual. It's not unusual for me now, but at the time it was unusual in that to see the struggle and how hard this can be for people. And I suppose, and the lessons learned. And I suppose like so many people go, "Oh, Sarah, don't judge me on my space." And it's like, I'm not judging here at all. In fact, if anything, I'm being judged that I would judge this space. Like, I'm so grateful to have the business and so grateful. And it is a privilege to be in somebody's space, personal, private space, and try and help them in a situation that has been causing huge amount of upset. So, but I think that in Ireland, sometimes we can be very quick to pass comment on, oh, somebody is really, oh, their place is such a mess, and rather than wondering why is it a mess, and they can also go the other extreme, go, oh, she's really neat and organized. She must be a total control freak. So it's
Mm.
this assumption around a person and their personality based on the environment in which they are in. And it's just, I learned a lot through that. And then I suppose not unusual in the more recent one before Christmas was we were clearing out a house, clearing a house as usual, like organizing it as just another project to do. And we finished up. It would have been a long day. We finished up, and the last thing we were going to do was really quickly we were going to sort through a bookcase, and we color coded the books because we had the time. And the client arrived in, and just a culmination of everything we'd done because we'd looked at the pantry, we'd looked at the wardrobe. We were now finishing with this, and she started crying because the just how much space can affect us. We do not realize how much it can affect us until it's fixed. And so, these are I love I've seen lots of happy tears over the years. So, but this one was really just nice because I knew it really meant a lot to her to get this service done. I didn't realize it meant that much. So,
Nice.
that was lovely as well. So they're two, but again, it's all psychological that are jumping out. They're both the emotional side of this work that
Yeah.
jumps out, one where I could get a great result and one where I couldn't. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah, they're two
interesting.
that jumped out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I love that term, visual noise. Like,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, I like that. And it's so true though, Sarah, isn't it? Because if like the emotional side of it, we all think about organizing and decluttering, right? Black sacks, skip,
Mhm.
job done. But
Yeah.
I remember my husband was overseas for 6 months, and I've told this story here in the office where something he hadn't looked at in 10 years I threw out, and then he nearly had a heart attack when he saw me throwing it out. And I sent him a photograph. But I was more caught up with organizing the space
Yeah.
and the satisfaction that can bring you.
Hmm.
And even down to small things, if stuff starts to build up again, I can feel it in my bones. I'm like, okay, that needs to stop. We need to get rid of that now.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like you're so like what you mentioned there about the psychology of it, that's really interesting. And that's something that we all forget about because everyone is the way they are for a reason,
Yeah.
and we're a product of our environment. So I remember hearing that years ago
Yeah.
that each of us is the product of our environment, and it's so, so true. Um, and anything that can be done to ease that is, to me, is a win-win, to be honest with you, whether it's a
Yeah.
corporate or whether you're in business or whether you're
Yeah.
personally, at home in
Well,
your own home space.
absolutely, because it can go for all your processes as well with your, in your
100%.
with how you run your company, is that
Yeah,
if there's too much clutter in your processes and you're trying to get from A to Z, or deal with customers, and it's just either very difficult for you to do, or laborious, or difficult to teach new trainees, and all of that. That again is just, lean is all about reducing waste and getting it. So this is all just a load of waste in your process that you need to just remove or declutter out, and it can make the way in which you run your process is so much more efficient. But also, with so many of us working from home now since COVID, like how many of us consider, like, when it first started off, there would be, people with their, desks in bedrooms and that, or at the kitchen table, and all of a sudden you have your work life interfering with your home life, and the boundary is completely gone. So some people would have found it very difficult to switch off from work anyway, and now their work was in their home space. So you weren't working from home, you were living at work. And so it's trying to have that clear boundary that can be done with your space, and with how you're filing things away and everything. But as well as that, like, thinking about also your brand when you're on calls and meetings and everything. Is there laundry in the back of your shot? Is there, where is your camera placed? This is all the organization of your environment in your workspace, and how, whether that's on brand or not. And so in the workplace, you go out to work and you can control that this looks really, really professional, but when people are working from home, maybe not so much. And so your background is really, really important. And not only to look good, but also for it to be not distracting as well. So it might be absolutely beautiful, but there might be something in the top right hand corner that is completely distracting your viewer. And that is having an impact on the conversation that you might be having. So all of that is how organization can lead into, from a corporate point of view, your processes in your space, for companies, as well as for residential clients.
And I think as well, Sarah, like thinking back to those days of COVID, like the stress, the absolute stress that working from home caused at the start for a lot of people, because they had cats and dogs, they had the laundry, they had the kids.
Yeah.
It was no holds barred, because your personal life was very much part of your professional life
Yeah.
during that challenging phase.
Yeah.
And for some people, they were able to get to grips with that, and they were able to organize a dedicated working space,
Yeah.
and make that choice to work in a hybrid fashion after COVID, or indeed work 100% remote. But for a lot of people, they just craved going back to the office, not just for the social interaction, but I think just for that piece of, okay, this is my professional life, my
Exactly.
home is my home, and I can totally identify with that.
Hmm.
Um, because I think during COVID, I think I was lucky I had an office at the top of the house,
Hmm.
but you're essentially getting up. And then I remember back in those days, and for anyone listening to this, like, you didn't know what to put on you. You
Yeah.
know, do I dress for work, or do I just throw whatever on me and just get on with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, in a way, we don't want those days back again too soon, I can tell you. But talk to me a little bit about some tidy home tips for anybody that's listening.
Yeah, sure. So I think the first thing to do is look at all of your surfaces. That's where I always say is to start, is to look at your surfaces. So your surfaces could be your desk if you're working from home, kitchen table, kitchen counters, kitchen island, bedside lockers, the windowsills. And so what is accumulating on these surfaces? First of all, by looking at your surfaces, usually they're really quick to clear. So you're up and running with your first project, you get motivation, but also it just immediately calms down the environment, and it also calms down your internal environment. It'll calm down the third eye. And so you just have space. So that is why I always suggest starting with the surface. Now, your largest flat surface is the floor. And if you start losing your floor to too much stuff, then you really need to have a look at things. And because you do not want to lose your floor to too much clutter. But start with your surfaces. That's where I would begin. Another tip then for any sort of decluttering and organization that I would do is to never zigzag. So if you are clearing out your bedroom, for example, and you find books that belong in the living room and some Lego that belongs in the kids' bedrooms and shoes that belong downstairs in the mudroom. And so you bring everything to the various different rooms. And along the way, you get annoyed about the clutter that's in all those other rooms, or you get interrupted by kids on the stairs. And lo and behold, this decluttering that you wanted to do on the bedroom is taking forever, and you're getting more and more frustrated. So do not zigzag. When you decide to declutter any room, you stay where you are and you create a belongs elsewhere pile at the bedroom door or wherever you're working, and you distribute that at the very, very end. So that's a second tip. My third tip will always be around time management of your sessions then as well, because inevitably, you'll go, okay, I'll give an hour to my wardrobe. Um, First of all, I would always sort of double my time estimate because we always underestimate how long something is going to take us. Um, but also then allow a tidy up time at the end. So if you decide to give yourself an hour, you're really only doing the work for about 40 minutes because you're going to spend the last 20 minutes tidying up everything. So bringing that belongs elsewhere pile to the rest of the house, putting maybe bags out to a car boot that you might be bringing to charity, bags out to the bin, that sort of thing, so that you are not, so you're leaving the room, if the room is not fully finished, you're leaving it set up so that it can be used and you know where to pick up the next time. Or if it is finished, then these are all the little loose ends that you always need to finish at the end. So there's a couple of tips to get started.
Really, really good tips there. I'm going to add one actually that a friend of mine gave to me a couple of years ago. And you know what? I started doing it and I stayed doing it like 6 or 7 years later. She said to me, Max, get a basket or some container. And if you're downstairs and the stuff to go upstairs, you put everything in that basket. And when you're actually going up, you take
Yeah.
it up. And then leave it on the landing. And likewise, if there's anything that needs to come down the next day, you bring it all
Yes.
down with you. And it has really stayed with me. I do that all the time. And my house can be an absolute reign of chaos at the best of times. But it does actually work as well. And thanks for
Yeah.
those tips. Tell me if anyone wants to contact you, Sarah, and tell us a little bit about what's coming up for you as well, first of all. What you have coming up. I know you're doing a couple of talks and that kind of thing as well at the minute.
Yeah, I've a couple of talks. So yeah, so we do have a couple of workshops booked in. We do workshops for companies, lunch and learns, and productivity days as well. So we've got a few of those coming up. Then I've got online courses that's currently running at the moment. But we've also got a few more coming this year as well, which is really exciting. And then of course we are always booking for our residential clients then as well. So yeah, it's a busy time, but lots coming up now in 2025, especially in the online space. We've had a really good engagement through we do decluttering sessions live on Zoom. And so I get a group of people on for 3 hours across a morning, and we all declutter together, and people have really loved that. So I'm hoping to turn out a couple more of those this year than I did last year. So
That
just get
sounds brilliant,
yeah,
actually.
just get more and more people, because I think that, first of all, it gives people the motivation to actually get work done,
Yeah.
and they've got this appointment. But also I feel that people always think that their clutter is the worst and that nobody else has
100%.
clutter. And I am here to tell you that everybody does. So it's nice for everybody to see that they're not by themselves and that this, everybody has got a bit of a job to do on something somewhere. So yeah, we all work on that. So we'll be having more of those coming together as well.
Oh, I think that's a great initiative
Yeah,
because
yeah,
even from whether you're coming at it from a work point of view or a
yeah,
personal point of view, absolutely agree with you that
yeah.
everyone has clutter, everyone.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely. And I think that like from a company point of view, we've done a couple of like last year we had a couple of company clear out days, so like basically doing it like per department, and we just giving a good few hours where everybody gets stuck in and just declutters whatever department, their desks, their, the cabinets that mightn't have been touched for a couple of years, stuff that might have been left from employees a couple of years ago, those sorts of things. And so they can be really, really good as well. So yeah, so that's just a little bit about what is coming up. And of course, to get in touch with me is organisedchaos.ie. LinkedIn, organize all of our social media is Organised Chaos Ireland as well. So
and guys, hop on to Organised Chaos on Instagram because the reels are cool and they'll give you a nudge in the right direction as well and
yeah, I
remind
hope
you the
so.
benefits of the service that you provide. I'm delighted to talk to you again, Sarah, and great to see the work you're doing because
Thank you so much.
it's a really different service, but I think there is always a solution to challenges, and chaos
Mhm.
and decluttering and stuff can be a challenge for some people, but they all know now where to find you.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah,
so
no,
much,
absolutely.
Sarah, for
I think it's
joining
all
us.
about yeah, it's just about, life can be quite challenging. There can be a lot going on, and we can often feel, oh, I don't have the time to get organized. But actually, if you don't have the time not to get organized, organization, you do need to take that step out to step forward, but it will give you back time that you need, and it'll give you relief and calm and peace of mind. So
And those are priceless things that you
worth doing.
can put
Yeah.
value in. They really are. They give you
Yeah.
peace of mind, and you have to make the time as well.
Yes.
So everyone knows where to find Sarah, organisedchaos.ie, and keep an eye out for what she has coming up as well on Zoom. And thank you, Sarah, for joining us. And we'll see you all soon, or we'll talk to you all soon again on Business Time Live. Thanks for tuning in.